Does paying our taxes make us war criminals? I'm going to talk in this video about the conversation of taxes, karmic connections, our moral obligation to what we know is right, and our bravery and courage to stand up towards systems that are not in support of that, right? So I know a lot of people don't like that we're sending, $40 billion in the last 2 years or whatever amount it is to Israel, when they're doing horrifying things to Palestine and now to Lebanon. And they're even threatening the US with different things. They're threatening the students, calling them terrorists, like all this sort of stuff. And we're giving money that we should be spending on ourselves to this terrorist country, right? What is our personal connection to that? Well, we are paying the government. They are in positions that they are because we are all individually paying their salaries. Right? So there's a thought process that we are good people if we pay our taxes and we're bad if we aren't paying our taxes, right? We'll be criminalized for that. But there's no thought process around the government needs to uphold a certain standard and actually protect its people in order for us to pay taxes, right? It's like this is a two-way relationship. Yet we're the ones in the relationship who are being treated horribly. And then the abusive person in the relationship, the government, the narcissistic, parasitical government that we have is the one who's doing all these shady things and getting away with it and then gaslighting us. Like it's literally the exact same thing. So where do we start to take back some of our power as the people saying, actually, I'm not going to give you money to bomb toddlers in Lebanon or in Palestine. I'm actually not going to give $20 billion. This is just the latest amount of money being sent there because I think that money should be kept in the States for our healthcare. So we have to start asking the question of what is our personal responsibility in relation to money? And a lot of people are happy to have this conversation. I wrote about this 5 years ago now. I wrote a whole book called Sacred Wealth about this concept, about the fact that we are karmically tied in to wherever we are putting our money, that we have to put our money where our mouth is. And what I was going to say is a lot of people are happy to talk about, oh, well, you're putting your money towards your dreams. You have to invest in yourself, all these things. Well, so you're investing in children being bombed when you're paying your taxes, right? And the International Court of Justice has said that any country who is supporting Israel is a war criminal. That might not be the exact words, but any country who is giving them money for arms or sending them weapons or anything of that nature is a war criminal, which means all of our politicians that are in office right now are all war criminals. And what extent does that reach out to us? The entire conversation around like Christ consciousness and the return of Christ is that we all have Christ consciousness awaken in us, meaning that we take responsibility for ourselves and we see ourselves as the leader of our life instead of outsourcing that to some other person thinking they're going to save us. We save ourselves by coming into personal responsibility and coming into our own godliness, right? So if we are that, and I am saying, hey, here's $30,000 for my taxes this year. Do with it what you want. I'm going to close my eyes and not look and see what you're doing, even though, some of that money is going to bribe this person over here, or some of that money is going directly to snipers that are murdering children. What is our responsibility? Because we are funding that. Even if we're like, no, but it's the government. It's not my fault. I'm not the one doing it. I really don't like that they're doing it. How is that any different from like slave wife that's like, yeah, I wish my plantation husband owner didn't have slaves, but what can little old me do about it? Like, I just benefit from their labor for free and I try to be as nice as I can while they sleep on the floor in this barn and I'm in my plantation home. What is the difference? Truly, if like we really move beyond the ego and let ourselves sink into it, like, are we not responsible? We are the ones funding the weapons. And so what level of responsibility are we able to take for that? And so I wanted to talk about what I'm personally doing, because a lot of people are like, don't pay your taxes, fuck the government, and then it's like, in secret, they're probably paying their taxes, and how is it that we can take action around this being in alignment with our own morals and values while also not putting ourselves in a position to go be imprisoned for not paying our taxes, right? So what is our line? And so for me in the spring, I learned that you can extend your tax payment. So obviously I have my own business. This will be different if you get a paycheck, but there are still things that you can do, and you should go research what those things are. I'm sure that there's a way to withhold taxes and that you pay them at the end of the year. I'm sure that there has to be a way to do that. So for people who have their own business, what I'm doing, first, I could have paid my taxes when the bill came, right? But I chose, I'm going to extend this payment because I refuse to give a fucking dime to go to a sniper's salary, or to go in Israel, or to go to, a tank that's going to bulldoze another pregnant woman. Like, I refuse. That is not like, oh, you're right or wrong for paying your taxes. I'm like, I don't know. I think that the right or wrong is a lot bigger when my money is being used to hang pregnant women and kill and execute children with Down syndrome. Like, these are all things that have legit happened. So if I've seen this happen, and I know that our weapons, the US made weapons that are being sent there, are doing that, how can I in my heart give my money to these people? Like, fuck right or wrong. That is not something I will be participating in. So anyways, you can see I get a little heated about this. So I decided in the spring, okay, I'm going to extend my payment because I'm not giving them a fucking penny. I refuse. And also I minimized my taxes as much as possible by, writing down every single thing that can possibly be a business expense and taking that out. And that's an obvious thing we can do as business owners. And so yesterday my extended payment was due, and I was like, still don't really feel comfortable. Thought that maybe by now we wouldn't be sending them money still. So doing a little research, I saw that I could still extend the payment out into monthly payments. So I'm choosing to do the longest payment possible. So I'm spending not as much money every month. And I'm not giving them as much money up front. I'm not in the place yet that I feel comfortable to just be like, I'm just not doing any of it, which we're going to talk about in a second. But for me, that feels like I'm not ready for that step, but I am ready to say, here's a fucking crumb, peasant government. Fuck you guys. Here's a single fucking penny. That's what I feel good about, because me giving them the money now, I'm like, doesn't that make me a war criminal? If Kamala Harris and Biden and Trump, if he's in office, if they're all going to be supporting Israel, so doesn't that make me a war criminal if I'm giving them money? They're not actually putting money in, are they? I mean, I don't know if they pay taxes or not. Trump doesn't. But anyways, how is it that I am karmically connected through giving money to this thing that I morally hate? It's like white feminism, basically, to be like, so sad. That is so sad. And then we just walk on because we're not affected by it personally. We just continue taking actions that support it, even though we're like, breaks my heart. These poor children. And then we continue taking action. This is something I'm going to be talking about a lot more, you guys, because it's vital that we start to recognize this within ourselves. So when we're thinking about how am I karmically connected into the damage and the pain and the suffering by me putting my money into it, how many lives have I personally impacted because I paid for the bullet or I paid for that bomb? People who are making $1 million a year plus, this is a real consideration for you guys. For me, I'm not paying that much in taxes. There's not I still refuse to give them that money, but people who are making $1 million plus a year, you guys are legit $200,000 in taxes. How many, doesn't that buy an entire tank? Doesn't that buy how many bombs is that? You legit have deaths on your hands. The more money you make, the more of an impact that's being made. But even if you make $20,000 a year, you're a waitress or something, or you make a smaller amount of money, your $500 that you're paying in taxes or whatever, that's also paying for shit. We have to be responsible for it. So I also wanted to talk about this video that I watched on TikTok the other day that I was like, this is so accurate. So this woman was talking about how she was like, I have a feeling because we've been in such a financial constriction the last few years in the US that a lot of people just aren't paying their taxes. And why would the IRS ever tell us that? The government or media is never going to be 20% of people aren't paying their taxes anymore. They're never going to tell us about that. because then that would give other people permission to do the same, because the IRS is small. They can only handle but so much, you know? So I think that that's a really interesting thought, seeing how tangibly the political system is falling. So many people don't believe in the two-party system anymore. And we're watching all of this shit happening in Hollywood, where all these people that have been huge and that have shaped culture in a lot of ways are going to jail, are being, you know, arrested for things. And this is going to get really, really big in the next few months, way more so than it has been in the last few years, I believe. So we're watching the political system fall. We're watching the structures within like us as humans in America, where we're like, yeah, America's actually fucking shit. America's actually the biggest fucking terrorist nation in the world. We have done so much damage to the rest of the world, while we're sitting here in our white feminism. No matter what color you are, no matter what race you are, I don't care. White feminism is not just for white women or white people. We're sitting here like, oh, things are so difficult. I can't buy my kombucha today. You know, while other people are like slave laboring for our clothes, or more like are being paid 50 cents an hour because our government has colonized their country so that they can basically get slave labor for free. You know, we're starting to see the prison structure like, oh, these are actually slaves. Like, companies are hiring these prisoners to work for them and they don't have to pay them minimum wage. Okay, we're going to start imprisoning homeless people to create a larger workforce. Okay, like, we're starting to see all this stuff. There's going to be a fall. We already know this. It's obvious, right? But then coming back to the conversation of taxes, like, what is our moral, like, if we are able to see what's going on, if we have our eyes open, then what is our moral duty to do in that situation, you know? And like me, I'm not ready to go to jail for not paying my taxes. That's not something I'm like willing to do at this moment. So what is the in-between? And for me, it's extended payments where I'm giving them a fucking penny at a time until I feel confident that the government is not using my money to murder children, you know? So how the 2 points I want you to reflect on, and maybe add your thoughts in the comments. Are we war criminals for paying our taxes? And what is our karmic connection to the money we're sending out to people who are using it in awful ways? What is our karmic connection to that? Like, these are things we should really be contemplating. So anyways, leave a comment if you like this video. Let me know what you think about all this.